Well, after having an absolutely bad day, I decided to cheer myself up and go see the Amazing Spider-Man movie. That was a mistake. Um, Nothing amazing, nothing spectacular, not anything Peter Parker in this movie. And probably about 10, 15 minutes into it, I was like, well, this please end, you know. So let's we'll break it down, man. I mean, I'll actually try to do a real movie review. Because I'm of the opinion that, you shouldn't just have movie reviewers who go watch all movies. I think, what is up with that? But, you should have movie critics who, are experts in certain genres. There's different things that make a great movie when it comes to a horror movie that are different than what makes a great crime movie. So, this was a superhero movie, action movie, whatever. So, first of all, we'll start with Peter Parker, okay? He's so freaking emo in this. I guess that's the word. I don't know what they were doing. He can't even pronunciate. How anybody could flesh a story together by what anybody in the movie were saying. The dialogue was like choppy. Nobody really finished a sentence, and it was just like they were just trying to be vague to set a mood or something. I don't know. Unreal. And then we have Gwen Stacy and Captain Stacy, Emma Stone and Dennis Leary. All I can say is the people who put the movie together just looked at the pretty pictures in the Spider-Man books because they looked like them. They had Emma Stone looking like she shopped at. Well, they had Gwen Stacy. They tried to make her look like the comic book, with the boots and the go-go mini skirt and all that stuff. You got to read the comics to know what Gwen was. This was not Gwen. She was not a scientist. She was not an intern. And it was like she was able to piece together what was going through Peter's head, but they never had those moments where they actually connected. It was a lot of awkward pauses with dialogue, and all of a sudden he's coming to dinner, and all of a sudden Gwen just has feelings for him that it makes no sense at all. There wasn't even that invisible attraction chemistry thing going on, and it just wasn't Gwen. She looked like she shopped at J.C. Penney back in the 70s. Diz Leary was cool. I guess it felt like everybody just showed up to do their lines. And then the lizard. I don't know if anybody remembers He-Man toys, Masters of the Universe. But they had this one reptile kind of creature. I want to say his name was like Riptor or something like that. Even had that was better than the lizard that was in this movie. It made no sense. I mean, there was vague things. There's spoilers here. Spoilers, I guess. The whole movie's spoiled. And but he actually started. There was like these little lizards popping up all over the sewers and stuff. And I guess you were supposed to figure out that something somewhere was making. I guess just being in the area of the lizard, made the rats in the sewers turn into lizards. And so he's going to. I guess what he was trying to do was he just up inside. He's going to turn everybody into lizards. You guessed. You had to guess. They didn't give any clues. It felt like there was like chapters of the movie missing, and all of a sudden it's like Peter just makes a phone call to Gwen, and apparently there's an antidote, just like that. You were just like, what just happened? How did that happen? One phone call, 6 numbers that he gave her. I guess was a formula. I don't know. And I paid attention, and but the lizard just cracked me up, and he looked awful. Even when Kurt Connors was growing his arm back, you could tell there was like this big, huge glove, trying to make it look all, looked like a big, thick surgeon glove. They it was gross. I mean, not even gross. It was just so fake. This is a big budget movie. I would say this is the Swamp Thing of the Spider-Man movies. The origin story. I guess there was an origin story. He actually becomes a vigilante because he's going out every night trying to find the guy that killed Ben Parker. Yeah, there's no reason to tweak it. It was a holdup at a store for some cash register money, and he throws a chocolate milk at Peter that he didn't have enough money to buy, and Peter doesn't try to help the guy running the store or anything, and then Ben just sees a gun on the ground when the guy trips, and they fight over the gun, and he gets shot, and the guy runs off. So Peter's spending every night trying to find the guy. Completely forgets about him, even though it's the lizard, And then it's like Ben Parker and Sally, Ben Parker and May Parker, Sally Field, and I can't remember the dude's name, Martin Sheen, maybe. I mean, they didn't put on a bad performance, but you can tell they just kind of showed up. There's a lot of stuff I guess you're supposed to fill in on your own, because the moments they were having, just real choppy. I mean, nothing flowed in this movie. I mean, I'm really sitting here trying to think of some good things to tell you. The good thing that popped up is, I don't know if anybody knows who it is, but there's a coincidence that happened in this movie, at least for me. I don't know if you remember who C. Thomas Howell is, but I looked up, and in the credits he was Jack's dad. And it was Pony Boy Curtis. I'm like, well, that's cool. And his first movie was actually E.T. He was one of the kids on the bikes. And that segues into the soundtrack. Now, I'm a guy that, if I hear a good soundtrack, then I notice it. I've never really been to a movie where I thought the soundtrack was bad or distracting, which is pretty much its job, not to be bad or distracting instead of mood. But the music, I really feel like, I actually paid attention. I think it was a guy named James Horner, and I recognize that name. He's done some other movies. But it was almost like he watched the movie and was like, Jesus, I got to put something in here. So he kind of overdone some of the music, and I was just like, enough. And then some of the music, I thought I was watching E.T. That's my segue from C. Thomas Howell to the movie. I felt like I was watching an 80s movie, and then there's Pony Boy Curtis, The costume, it's a Spider-Man costume, and it's really hard to mess up and stuff, but you could tell he was wearing boots at some point. And the very last shot of the movie has got him in this big pose that they got from McFarlane, and he had, I don't know what the deal with the bottom of his shoes were. I mean, it was real obvious, or I wouldn't be complaining. And there's a part there where apparently he gets shot by a cop, and he's trying to get to this building because you want him to save Gwen, because he knows the lizard's on his way there. And he's in the middle of New York, and apparently there is nothing to swing on. So Jack's dad, C. Thomas Howell, Pony Boy Curtis, the whole town is getting evacuated, but he's able to call everybody up on the CB. He's like, that's the guy that saved my boy. And magically there's all these cranes going down the middle of the street. Apparently there's one part of New York where all the buildings, I guess, are half a mile apart, and Peter's trying to crawl his way and jump from building to building, but there's no buildings. He can't get to this place, middle of New York. All of a sudden there's nothing to cling to. Yeah, and the music builds up, and they're trying to make this big dramatic, and he takes a big run, and he's going to save Gwen, and I'm just sort of like, nothing to swing on in New York. Oh, trying to think. It was just bad. I heard some people had a good time. They were kind of chuckling here and there, and there's a bunch of kids that were there, but the kids started getting up and down going by the aisle. That's really how I judge a movie. If you have a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid and this movie can make them sit and really be into the movie, it's a good movie. And, parts got kids that they like. And everybody knows his identity. I off the top of my head, he showed his secret identity to 4 people. And, the lizard still knows his secret identity, and the lizard was alive. And I felt like they were like trying, it was so dark and edgy, it's almost like they were trying to make a Batman movie with this or something. I don't know, Spider-Man can stand on his own. So I waited around, I knew there was going to be a secret scene, and after the first set of credits there's a secret scene, and it was pointless. I mean, what's the secret, does Peter know the secret of his dad? You leave that boy alone. Some mysterious figure in the shadows there, while the Kurt Connors with his little reptile skills is just putting in a cell, and there just happens to be somebody there. Ooh, who could that be? Oh, just bad. All right. I think I'd rather go see Green Lantern again. I could not sit through this Spider-Man movie again. My opinion. If you go, do not go see the movie because of this. But I think if I'm giving you some fair warning, all right, we gotta get over that.